The blow they never expect is the one that destroys them within, because in relationships, people don't break when you cry, when you argue, or when you beg for clarity. They break when something inside you shifts, quietly, silently, and permanently. Now, before we dive deeper, I want to be clear, everything I discuss here is meant to help you understand patterns, not to judge anyone. We all have our blind spots and moments where we fall short, and the goal is to help you recognize these dynamics so you can live with clarity, confidence, and peace. So let me ask you, have you ever noticed how an avoidant reacts when you stop reacting? Not when you chase, not when you over-explain, but when you suddenly become calm. That calmness, that strange heavy stillness in your chest, is the start of the blow that affects them more than any argument ever could. Avoidants are used to handling emotional intensity. They expect your tears, your confusion, and your attempts to fix things. But what they never expect is a version of you that stops needing them. A version that doesn't bend to fill the gaps they leave behind. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever shifted from feeling I can't lose them to thinking, if this is how they love, maybe I don't want it anymore? That internal shift, a quiet psychological recalibration, is something the avoidant cannot predict or control. Avoidants rely on patterns. They assume you'll keep closing the gap, forgiving their distance, and caring enough to maintain the bond. But when your energy changes, when you stop chasing the connection, when you stop trying to fix everything, you disrupt their entire internal blueprint. Even silently, your absence is felt instantly. Your calm becomes louder than any argument. Your emotional detachment hits harder than heartbreak. Suddenly, the avoidant is confronted with a version of you they can't predict, can't control, and can't replace. And that, truly, is the blow they never expect, not the breakup, not the silence, but the moment you detach emotionally. In today's video, we're going to talk about what that unexpected blow actually is, the 3 things avoidants never see coming, why your shift becomes so powerful that it shakes them to their core. Stay with me till the end. This might be the clearest psychological explanation you've ever heard. The 3 things avoidants never expect, but always hit them hard. The first thing avoidants never expect, but always hits them hard, is your calm detachment. Avoidants can handle your anger, they can handle your frustration, they can even handle your tears. All of this is predictable to them. They know that when they pull away you'll become emotional. They're used to that response. But your silence, your calm detachment, your emotional neutrality, that is what shakes them to their core. Why? Because it's the moment they realize, perhaps for the first time, you're no longer operating inside their emotional patterns. Why is calm detachment so powerful for an avoidant? The avoidant relationship system runs on assumptions. They ask for space, they withdraw, they put up walls, and they expect you to be the one who reaches out, who fills the silence, who takes on the emotional weight and holds the connection together. But when you step back quietly, without noise, without begging, without panic, that's when they finally feel the weight of their own behavior. This weight doesn't come from anger, it doesn't come from arguments, it comes from your quiet acceptance. Why does your calm detachment scare them? Because anger still means you're attached, tears mean you still care, frustration means you're still fighting for the relationship. But when you become calm, when you detach emotionally, the avoidant is confronted with a reality they never prepare for. You've made an internal decision, and it's a decision they no longer have control over. Avoidants crave control, not dominating control, but emotional predictability. They need the certainty that whenever they pull away you will move closer. But calm detachment is the moment you stop moving. What question does your calmness trigger inside them? It's always silent, but it hits deeply. If they're no longer breaking for me, where are they going? If they've stopped feeling, have I actually lost them? Avoidants are used to emotional distance, but when you match that distance, they become trapped inside the very walls they built. Why does calm detachment create a psychological reversal? Because the power dynamic flips. Before you were emotionally invested, they were distant. Now you're emotionally neutral, and for the first time, they feel uncertainty instead of comfort. And that uncertainty, it hits them harder than anything else. And here's the most important part. Calm detachment never arrives with dramatic scenes. It builds quietly. One day the pain gets lighter, then your expectations get smaller, and one morning you wake up and realize, I'm no longer a prisoner of their behavior. That moment, that internal shift, is the blow an avoidant never expects, because it's the one they cannot undo, control, or pull you back from. And that is why your calm detachment always hits an avoidant the hardest. The second thing avoidants never expect but always shakes them deeply is your sudden lack of initiation. Avoidants build entire relationships on one subconscious assumption: you'll always be the one who reaches out first, you'll be the one who texts, you'll be the one who apologizes, you'll be the one who reopens conversations, you'll be the one who holds the emotional glue, you'll be the one who closes the distance every time they create it. And for a long time you do, not because you're weak, but because you genuinely care. You believe connection is built through effort, communication, and showing up. So whenever they retreat into silence, you step forward. Whenever they shut down, you open up. Whenever they drift away, you pull the bond back together. This pattern trains the avoidance nervous system. It convinces them that no matter how far they withdraw, you will fix it. So when you stop initiating, not in anger, not in resentment, but in quiet self-respect, it sends a psychological shock through the avoidance entire system. Because your lack of initiation isn't passive, it isn't manipulative, it isn't a game, it is a shift, a deep internal shift that says, I am no longer the only one holding this relationship up. And this is the moment that rattles them. Why does your lack of initiation hit them so hard? Because avoidants rely on emotional distance as their safety mechanism, but they only feel safe as long as you are the one bridging the gap. When you stop doing that, their distance no longer feels comfortable, the silence no longer feels controlled, the space no longer feels like freedom. It suddenly becomes uncertainty. Avoidants thrive on predictability, and your constant initiation was predictable. It gave them a sense of emotional control. I can pull away, and they'll come close. I can be distant, and they'll reach out. I can withdraw, and they'll repair the connection. But when you stop initiating, that entire internal map collapses. Now they're left thinking, why aren't they reaching out? Did something change? Are they done with me? Did I push too far? Do they not care anymore? These questions hit deeper than any emotional outburst ever could. What does your sudden silence expose? It exposes the truth they never want to confront. You were the one sustaining everything. Your calls, your messages, your explanations, your efforts to reconnect, your desire to fix what they avoided. When that stops, the avoidant is forced to face something they've been running from. If they don't reach out, nothing happens. No conversation, no repair, no warmth, no connection, and in that emptiness, they feel something new, a discomfort so unfamiliar, it unsettles them. The weight of their own emotional distance. Why does this change everything? Because it reverses the dynamic. Before you were predictable, now you're not. Before you were available, now you're not. Before you were invested, now you're selective. Your silence forces them to see the bond they took for granted. Your non-initiation reveals the role you always played. Your pause becomes a mirror they can't look away from. And that is why your sudden lack of initiation always hits an avoidant harder than any emotional reaction ever could. The third thing avoidants never expect, but always hit them hard, is your new boundaries, the calm, firm limits they can't break through. Avoidants are used to one pattern: you bend, they pull away, and eventually you bend again. This loop becomes their comfort zone. It becomes the silent agreement of the relationship. It becomes the emotional contract they never say out loud, but always depend on. But when you develop new boundaries, everything changes. Not boundaries spoken in anger, not threats made in desperation, not emotional ultimatums. I'm talking about calm boundaries, quiet, steady limits. The kind you don't announce, you simply live by them. This is the moment avoidants never expect, because suddenly they can't predict you anymore. Why do new boundaries hit avoidants so hard? Because avoidants rely on a certain emotional imbalance. They control the distance, you control the closeness. They step back, you step forward. They shut down, you open up more. They protect their independence, you protect the relationship. But when your boundaries enter the picture, that entire system collapses. Suddenly, when they pull away, you don't chase. When they get cold, you don't warm things up. When they test the limits, you don't break them. When they go silent, you don't fill the silence for them. This is the moment an avoidant realizes something is wrong. Not wrong with you, wrong with the dynamic they were using to feel safe. Asterisk, asterisk. Avoidants don't fear your anger. They fear your standards. Asterisk, asterisk. Because anger means you're still emotionally involved. Boundaries mean something much deeper. Your self-respect has awakened. And here's the psychological truth. When a previously overgiving person stops overgiving, the avoidant feels the shift like a cold shock. It's unfamiliar, uncomfortable, uncontrollable. For the first time they see the relationship through your eyes. How long has this person been hurting? How much did they tolerate? What changed inside them? Are they done? Avoidants don't ask these questions out loud, but they feel them, deeply, silently, fearfully. The power of calm boundaries. The beauty of boundaries is that they require no explanation. You don't argue, you don't justify, you don't convince. You simply stop doing the emotional labor, stop accepting what drains you, stop excusing what hurts you, stop offering what isn't reciprocated, and the avoidant finally sees the consequence of their distance. Your boundaries become a mirror, showing them exactly what they've been avoiding about themselves. For the first time they feel the emotional responsibility that you quietly carried for so long, and that responsibility, that accountability, that is the blow they never expect, because boundaries mean something avoidants never anticipate. You're no longer afraid of losing them, you're afraid of losing yourself, and that shift, that reversal of emotional power, always hits them harder than anything you ever said out loud. Why your shift is so powerful? Your shift is powerful because it disrupts an emotional pattern that the avoidant has been unconsciously relying on. Most people don't realize how predictable their roles become in a relationship dynamic. One gives, one receives, one initiates, one responds, one stabilizes, one floats in and out. When you suddenly change the part you've been playing, it forces the avoidant to confront parts of themselves they've been avoiding. At its core, your shift represents something deeper, a withdrawal of emotional certainty. Avoidants are addicted to certainty, especially when it comes from someone who has always been emotionally available, consistent, forgiving and patient. When that source of stability suddenly stops behaving the way it used to, the avoidant's mind goes into alert mode. Even those who appear indifferent feel this disruption internally. Avoidants are sensitive to changes in energy, especially when the change comes without drama, complaint, or announcement. Silence with self-respect hits differently. Your shift is also powerful because it introduces unpredictability into a connection where your reactions were once assumed. Before, the avoidant never had to wonder what you would do. You filled the gaps, you repaired misunderstandings, you soothed tension, you kept emotional continuity alive. But when your behavior no longer supports the dynamic, it forces them to reassess the connection entirely. Suddenly they have to notice what you used to do, because it's missing. Another reason your shift carries so much weight is that it signals internal alignment. You're no longer operating from fear, fear of losing them, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood. You're acting from a place of self-respect, even if the avoidant doesn't fully understand it yet. Avoidance can sense when your choices come from strength rather than reaction. This shift in your internal energy communicates something words never could. You're no longer emotionally dependent on their validation, presence or attention. Your shift also changes the psychological mirror. Before, you were the one absorbing emotional impact, adjusting yourself or compensating for their patterns. Once you stop, the mirror faces them. The avoidant is now confronted with their own behaviors, the silence they used to ignore, the distance they felt comfortable creating, the inconsistency they believed you would tolerate forever. When your behavior stops cushioning the consequences of their actions, they experience the impact directly. There's also a deeper, more subtle layer. Your shift creates emotional contrast. Avoidants don't notice light until it disappears. They don't appreciate stability until it's missing. They don't recognize emotional safety until they feel the absence of it. Your shift highlights what you were giving all along, not through explanation, but through the natural clarity that comes when something once abundant becomes scarce. But perhaps the most powerful element is this: your shift is internal, not strategic. You're not pretending, you're not trying to trigger a reaction, you're not engaging in emotional tactics. You simply change direction, quietly, naturally, authentically. And the most impactful changes are always the ones rooted in genuine transformation, not performance. Your shift is powerful because it rewrites the emotional script, without forcing, without chasing, without announcing. It changes what you tolerate, what you give your energy to, and how you relate to yourself. And whether the avoidant admits it or not, they always feel that kind of shift. It's undeniable, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. And that truly is the power of your shift. It's subtle, quiet, and internal, yet more impactful than any argument, tear, or confrontation. Avoidants rely heavily on emotional predictability. They are accustomed to patterns where they pull back and you give more, where they distance themselves and you make up for it. But when you step back, stop overgiving, and honor your own needs, you disrupt the very blueprint they have unconsciously relied on for stability and comfort. Your calm detachment, your lack of initiation, and your new boundaries act like a mirror they cannot ignore. Suddenly they are faced with the reality they have always avoided, the gaps, the distance, and the inconsistency of their own behavior. They feel the weight of what they once assumed would always be covered, carried, or forgiven by you. It's not loud or dramatic, it's quiet, steady, and unshakable. This isn't about punishment or manipulation, it's about reclaiming your energy, living in alignment with your values, and showing up fully for yourself. It's about demonstrating through action and presence rather than words that your emotional well-being is your priority. Over time, the avoidant senses what you always offered them: emotional safety, consistency, care, and connection, but this time it is experienced in absence, clarity, and unshakable strength. The blow they never expect is not a fight, a confrontation, or even a breakup. It is the transformation you embody. Your emotional independence, self-respect, and authenticity communicate more powerfully than any argument ever could. Remember, when you prioritize yourself, when you enforce your boundaries, and when you allow your calm, self-respecting energy to lead, that is the moment the avoidant truly feels the impact. It's quiet, it's subtle, but it is profound, permanent, and utterly undeniable.